Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast. We are on episode 93, and it is part 3 of our 90 Lessons in 90 Episodes podcast series, and we've been reviewing the 90 lessons we have learned over 90 podcast episodes. It all started when I got very excited about our 90th episode, and actually my roommate just came out and asked me, and he was like, 90th, why not celebrate 100? And I realized it's because 90 feels so much more like a milestone. Obviously 100 is too, and we're gonna get there, don't worry, but 90 feels like a milestone because it has been so long getting to this point. I feel like at this point we have covered so much in the marketing world, and yes, we will continue to push ourselves for the next how many episodes and get to 100. But for me, I feel like these past 90 episodes have been a huge learning curve for me as a host, and it has been an opportunity to get to build our community together. And I am so flipping excited and proud of the community that we have gotten to build together. And I say together because I understand a podcast is very one way. I am not looking anyone in the eye right now as we talk about these marketing lessons. I am staring at my microphone and occasionally my laptop and sometimes my martini glass filled with water because all my other glasses were dirty today. And it's weird for me to think that we're building it together if I'm the one recording and then I just send it out. But the truth is, your guys' engagement over the past 90 episodes and your help in guiding me to create the podcast that is now existing, that is now here, it's been you guys. You have done this. I am here. I am taking your advice. I am doing what you want me to do, but it's been because you've been telling me what to do. If it had just been me, guys, it would not be as good as it is today. Like, trust me, I am just the voice of what you guys want to hear, and you are telling me how to make that voice better and stronger, and how to create content that you guys genuinely want to listen to. So that is why we are celebrating 90 episodes. That is why we are taking time to reflect on those 90 episodes, because this has been our growing episodes where we have changed and developed this podcast. And going forward, we are still going to grow and change. I'm not saying we won't, but this curve has been huge. And for me, it's been so important that we have changed and we have grown, because I knew going into this that I didn't know anything about hosting a podcast or creating content that you guys actually wanted. I mean, there were so many episodes where I felt like, and I would hear back from you guys of like, that wasn't helpful. And it's like, okay, well, how do we move forward from there? How can I make it more helpful? How can I make it useful? And so that is what today's episode, and that's what part 1 and part 2 have been about creating content and talking about content that has helped you guys in your marketing journey. So we have covered we are on number 61. Lesson number 61 was free courses to take online. I am a huge advocate for taking free courses online about marketing. There are a lot of things a free course cannot teach you, but it is a great way to start developing skills that you don't have. If you've never used Instagram before, then use a free course online. Now, here's the thing. The chances are at the end they are going to try to sell you their full course, and it'll totally be up to you if you want to take it, if you want to take that chance. But you are going to get so much information from a free 1-hour course that you'll be able to at least kickstart whatever skill you're trying to learn. If it's Instagram, if it's photography, if it's Twitter, if it's blogging, a 1-hour free course online can totally help you just start gaining some skills you didn't even know you needed. Along those same lines is books. Books are a great way to learn skills, again, that you know you need, but it's intimidating to want to take that on. You don't want to have to go through a full university for your degree program to learn that skill. You're like, okay, well, I need to know the bare minimum of it so that I can do it. Books are a great resource to sort of kickstart that thought process of wanting to learn. And for those of you that are not able to learn from books directly, that's when the free courses come into place if you're more of a visual learner. But I am definitely someone who needs to read it. My roommate is someone who needs to read it a few times and then we understand it rather than being a visual learner. So it totally depends on your learning style and who you are as a marketer. But again, it is just a great resource to be able to lean on. Number 63, YouTuber marketing. So there's a difference between YouTube marketing and YouTuber marketing, which is why I paused there, forgive me. And here's the difference, is because when you're marketing on YouTube, there are certain rules you have to follow and a different way you create content on there than you do on Instagram. And we did a whole episode on that. But then there's this whole other universe in YouTube where you are creating content for the actual platform, which is very different and is an entirely different ballgame. Now, I actually create content on YouTube. It is Mackenzie Jaquish, Mackenzie Jaquish, if you want to go check me out. But it's so different from creating an ad that will go on YouTube or creating a video for your Instagram, but you want to upload it onto YouTube just to connect your platforms. And it's different from being an actual YouTuber. So if you want to be an actual YouTuber, then it is a lot of time curating content specifically for that platform. And we did a whole episode on it where I talked about links and branding and all that. So go check it out if you're interested. But just know you don't need to be a YouTuber to advertise on YouTube. That's the biggest lesson to take away. Number 64, something that I think can't be talked about enough. Honestly, I'm trying to get through all the lessons here, and then I hit roadblocks like this where I'm like, oh my gosh, I could talk about this for hours. That's holiday marketing. Holiday marketing, and number 65 is summer marketing, and number 66 is Thanksgiving marketing, and number 67 is Halloween marketing. And I'm sorry to speed round that for you guys, but the truth is holiday marketing for any of those holidays, it all comes down to planning. And it all comes down to just genuinely putting in effort to show that you are participating in that holiday. They're all great opportunities to jump on a bandwagon, to do some sort of promotion, be a part of an event, do a giveaway, do a contest, a great opportunity to change up your branding, try working with a new team, push your boundaries a little bit. But really, when it comes down to it, if you want to do good holiday marketing, if you want to do a summer campaign, a Thanksgiving campaign, a Halloween campaign, then what it comes down to is planning ahead. Recently, I did an episode where I asked, is it too early to start planning for the holidays? And the answer is no. You should start planning as soon as your other campaign goes live. Like your Christmas campaign goes live, you take it down on December 31st. That's when you start planning for your next Christmas campaign. Same with Valentine's Day, same with Halloween, same with Thanksgiving. You just need to always be planning ahead. And I know that seems a little bit crazy and a little bit all right, but eventually we're going to get into the swing of it, right? No, because there's always new ideas. There are always new technologies to try out, always new trends going on. So planning ahead can help you stay on top of all of that, but also it can help you learn the ways of what you want to do for holiday marketing and then be able to change and develop those ideas further as the year goes on. Number 68, coffee marketing. So the reason we finally did an episode on coffee marketing is because I had been using it as an example for I think we finally did that around episode 70, and it was my go-to example for months. I was like, well, if you run a coffee business, for example, you could use this. So finally we dug into the coffee marketing world and we learned about how it really does come down to knowing your brand and expressing your brand throughout every different platform, which is something we have talked to death, but it's not something you could ever talk less about because it's so incredibly important to know your brand, know your customer, and then go from there. It's not about your product because coffee marketers have sometimes started with coffee and then suddenly they're in pastries and they're taking over this whole world of snack foods, or like Starbucks is no longer just Starbucks, right? Like they do merchandising and like frozen drinks and food and vegan food. Like it's about expanding your company while staying true to your product, which is just something we hadn't quite looked at yet. And so, yes, we did a whole episode on coffee marketing, but we also did a whole episode on Starbucks marketing that I didn't even put on these 90 lessons, because, man, Starbucks marketing, they know their brand and they work it hard. So definitely go check out those episodes if you're interested in learning how you can market your coffee brand, or if you're just learning how to really, really work your brand. Number 69, video game marketing. So one of the biggest issues I have with our podcast is every time I go to record from home, my roommate is playing video games and I can hear him yelling through the walls. And it's just, finally, I was like, fine, I'll do an episode on video game marketing. And what we learned from that episode is how it has to be immersive to work. You need your audience to feel as though they are not just a part of your community, but they are a part of the journey and the story that is being told. Finally, number 70, we talked about how you can give your marketing a deep clean. We talked about how you need to look back on what you've done so that you can move forward properly. And this means staying on top of posts that you used to post that no longer fit your brand. You need to delete them. Any bad reviews, you need to find a way to either get the person to delete them if you are unable to, or find a way to hide it, because it is about cleaning up your marketing so that you always present a clean and happy home. I think we actually used that as the metaphor. We talked about how when you're about to start cleaning your home, the first thing you need to do is go and gather the trash. Just like when you're cleaning up your marketing, the first thing you need to do is go and delete all your old posts that no longer work. So go check out that episode if you're interested in giving your marketing a deep clean. Okay, everyone, we are going to go ahead and take a quick break from the podcast, but when we come back, we are jumping right back in with more 90 lessons over 90 episodes. So stay tuned for more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and on today's episode, we are on part 3 of the 90 lessons over 90 episodes. Happy birthday, the GSMC Marketing Podcast episode series that we've been doing. I clearly have not quite come up with the name for it yet, so stay with me. I'm working on it. I'm sure by the time these get posted, we'll have come up with a genius name to call this series. But basically, the point is, over the past 90 episodes, we have learned and grown and challenged ourselves in our marketing, and I wanted to pay tribute to that. So I sat down and I wrote out all of the lessons I think we have learned over those 90 episodes, and then I sat down to record it. And I instantly realized that, this is going to take more than one episode, because we have learned so much together that it couldn't be just summed up in one episode. So we did a 3-part series you are now on the second to last final part of this series. How's it going? Did you like it? Did you find it fun? Did you find it entertaining? If you found it any of those things, please do not be shy to rate it, review, and subscribe, and let me know which of the 90 lessons has been your favorite. For now, let's jump right back in with number 71, data. All right, let's take a second here to remember the fact that this episode was hard. It was a difficult episode. It was one of my first episodes, so one, the quality probably was not that good. I apologize. We got a new mic now. We're doing better. But the reason it was hard is because data is always hard. It's always hard. It's always boring. It's always work. And it's something that I think you have to overcome to understand that yes, it's work. Yes, it's a little boring. Yes, it's not something you want to do, but it's so important. It's the only thing we have as marketers that we can point to as proof that we are doing our job correctly. Because salespeople can say, hey, we made X dollars in sales, and like writers can say, okay, well, I wrote like 7 books this year. As marketers, we can say, okay, well, this Instagram post that I posted, the engagement level was 70% higher than it is on average for our other posts. However, overall, our following has gained 30% over the past quarter. So, first of all, like, give me a round of applause. I just came up with all of that off the top of my head, those numbers. So, you know, data definitely is not something that comes easy right away, but it is something that is incredibly important. So be patient with yourself, read a book, take a free course, go listen to that podcast episode, because it's so important and it's something you need to learn. Just like number 72, which is budgeting. Again, not something that is easily done. It's a lot easier for me to say sitting here on my podcast, like, okay, you guys need to learn how to do your budget properly. But the truth is, we are in trying times. And a lot of people have had to make some pretty major cuts. So now is the best time to get a hold of your budget. And it is the best time to really, really focus in on what is important, what do you want to be spending your money on, and how can you best support your company and your team. Your company isn't just a product. It's not just selling. Like, obviously that is what puts food on the table, but you do have a team to support. So knowing your budget is a great way to know how you can support your team. So yes, it's scary, just like data is scary, but it's so important for you to be able to sit down and like recognize where you can bend in your budget and where you can't. All right, another mini speed round here, because number 73 is 50 Shades of Grey, number 74 is Twilight, and number 75 is Harry Potter. The reason I want to speed round all of those together is because there is one major lesson to learn from each of those franchises. And it's that your audience will be so committed to you if you're committed to them. The Harry Potter, the Twilight, and the 50 Shades of Grey franchise thrived because their audience loved them so much. Because here's the thing, we can counter argue here that 50 Shades of Grey was not as popular as Twilight, and Twilight was definitely not as well liked as Harry Potter. But the truth is that all of those had a huge cult following, and like bigger than a cult following, they like had huge budgets that allowed a following to really hook on and want to be a part of it, right? Like, I'm sure Harry Potter had like 8 different films, and some of those suck. I'm not gonna lie to you, not every Harry Potter film's fantastic, but you still went to see the theaters and bought the DVD and bought the merch because you were a part of that community, you were a part of that following. So the number one lesson I want you to take from Harry Potter, 50 Shades of Grey, and Twilight is to really spend time working on your following and developing your following so that they are willing to follow you to the edge of the Twilight universe ledge. And the funny thing is that Harry Potter and Twilight were always very commonly like compared. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, this is like the new Harry Potter, this Twilight movie. Like, there's so many similarities, when like, no, they're not. It's just like they're teenagers and it's like a supernatural thing. That's the only thing to compare. But then 50 Shades of Grey was actually Twilight fan fiction. They were actually very, very connected. So it's just another great example of having that following and having them be so committed that the Harry Potter fans at least went and checked out the Twilight films because everyone was saying they were similar. And the Twilight fans went and checked out 50 Shades of Grey because it was born from that original idea. So a following really will follow you anywhere you want to go. Like Stephenie Meyer, the author of Twilight, came out with another book, and I'll be so honest with you, I have no idea what it was called, but she came out with another book shortly after like the Twilight series was finished, and nobody cared. But then she decided to come out with a male version, like the point of view of Edward of the Twilight book, and I kid you not, those books were the exact same. She just changed the pronouns and she just changed things a little bit. But the Twilight fans were pumped again. They were excited. They had more content to engage with. So it's truthfully about building that community so that you know that whatever direction you want to take, they're going to follow you. Number 76, marketing distractions. The marketing world is by far one of the most creative worlds. And I don't think anyone would deny me in saying that. We get to be extremely creative in our jobs. However, because of that creativity and the license to get to sit back and have a brainstorming session and build a mood board, it's very, very easy for us to get distracted. And so what we really tried to focus on that episode was cutting out distractions. So now a great example, I already talked about it in like part 1, but brainstorming. Brainstorming can be a ton of fun and a great way to start kickstarting ideas and work with your team and get creative. But it's also a great way to waste a week. So what I recommended with anything that seems really fun and really useful, but you know you can get carried away with, set a timer. Know that you can only brainstorm for 1 hour, and then at the end of that hour, you need to make a decision on what you're going to do. Now, obviously, that changes for each project. If you're trying to brainstorm a whole company, don't do that in an hour. Maybe do it in an hour chunks so that you don't get carried away. But, know the limits for each different project is what I'd say. Number 77, making time for marketing. So in the same way, we need to schedule out like your distractions here so that you only spend an hour brainstorming and not 5 hours brainstorming. You also need to know how you can make time to brainstorm and make time to engage with your audience and make the content you want to make and still be posting on Instagram. There's just so much to do. So we did a whole lesson on how you can really create a calendar for yourself, stay on top of a routine, because I already said it once, but I will say it again. Being organized is the most useful tool I can give you guys for marketing, because if you're organized, you can create anything. Number 78, target marketing. So we talked about everyone's favorite department store, I think it's a department store, Target, and how Target really has changed from being a place where you would buy food to now it is like a symbol of like adulthood, like you're going to Target, and it's all about their branding and how the experience you get online is the same experience you get when you go inside a store. And that is so incredibly specific to Target because, like, I'll tell you, the Walmart website is very different from when you go inside of a Walmart. And I'm sure there are plenty other stores we could point to and talk about. So Target is very good about having a brand experience from online to their social media to being in store. Number 79, we talked about the beauty industry because, of course, we had to talk about the beauty industry. Their marketing is everywhere. They use models, they lean on people's insecurities, but also they try to lift people up. It is a fascinating world, the world of beauty marketing, and it was a great episode to get to dive into and learn how, although we might not work in the beauty industry, it is definitely, or some of you might, I don't want to cancel you out, it's a great opportunity to look to see what they've created, to see if you can maybe use any of that in your own marketing. Number 80, gadgets that will help you improve your event marketing. So I gave you gadgets for how you can do better websites and create better content. But when you're at an event and you're doing marketing for an event, that is a whole other ballgame. And the thing that I always wanted to really talk about in those episodes was anything you bring with you to an event should have like 5 different purposes. Like, if you're bringing a charger, make sure it can charge like 5 different devices. And if you are bringing a wallet, why are you bringing that wallet? Like, what's so important that's in there? If you're bringing a lens, how many lenses are you bringing? Like, all these questions. I really wanted it just to be gadgets that would make your life easier, because when you're at an event, you don't want to have to be like digging through a toolkit to try to find this one specific thing to bring. Okay, everyone, we are going to go ahead and take our last break of the podcast, but when we come back, we have our final 10 lessons. So stay tuned for more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am getting slightly emotional. We have done, this is episode 93, this is part 3 of our 90 lessons over 90 episodes. And what a trip. What an amazing adventure we've been on together. And I've talked about it a lot, so I won't continue to talk about it a lot. But I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for sharing your opinions. It has meant the world to me to get to do these 90 episodes with you and learn these lessons together. So here's to a lot more episodes and many more lessons to learn together. But for now, let's jump back in with episode number 81, which was late night marketing. So I know a lot about the late night television show industry, mostly because that is my dream job, to host a late night show. And so I've looked into it, and I feel like there was so much there to talk about in marketing, which is why I brought it onto this podcast, because their audience and their structure and the purpose of them truly is to make that celebrity marketing make them feel like you know them, like you know the celebrities that are on the show, to give you that insider look, to make you see things that you never thought you would see before. It is a platform, but it is also a tool in marketing. So definitely, it was one of my favorite episodes to record. Go check it out to learn more. Number 82, this was also one of my favorite episodes to record. Marketing scams. What? I know. It was, oh my gosh, I'm smiling when I think about this episode, because it was just so much fun to learn about all the different marketing scams that have happened over the past few decades. My personal favorite was the guy who sold the Brooklyn Bridge like once a week for like a year and made like a ton of money, and then eventually people like caught on and he was arrested and had to give the money back and all that. But really what that episode purpose was, other than just entertainment, because learning about those things is very entertaining, or at least for me it is. But the purpose of that episode was trying to help you ensure that you don't get scammed, because in the marketing world, like I already said, we are very creative people, and it can almost be very easy to take advantage of creative people. Like, oh, we'll make your data planning easier and you can just focus on the fun stuff. And we're immediately ready to jump on that, to experience that. Like, yes, I would love it if you could just take care of my budget for me. But there are so many different scams you could actually fall into, and they could be very, very dangerous for you and your marketing. The biggest one is sometimes people will reach out to you and say, hey, there's a problem with your website. If you pay me $500 or more and give me all of your security codes to your website, I'll help you fix it. The best thing to do in this scenario is to go to your engineer who built your website and get them to take a look at it, because here's the thing, there usually is actually something wrong with your website. These people scour the internet looking for websites that have something broken so that they can prove to you that it is broken, and that's why you should pay them. But they're not actually equipped to fix it. They're going to take your money and run and have all of your passwords and be able to totally take advantage of you. So skip all that, call your engineer, spend, like, even though engineers are very expensive, like website engineers, spend the money to get them to take a look at it and get them to fix it. That way it's with someone you trust, and it's someone that you know is going to take care of you and your website because they helped build it. They are a part of your team, even if they are just someone you outsourced. All right, number 83, get resourceful. I loved this episode. This was actually, the episode title was Get Resourceful, because it can feel like you are on a ship sometimes marketing. You are on a ship and you are doing everything by yourself. You are the captain of the ship, but also you are swabbing the deck and you are making the meals, and you're also somehow the person who's captured on the ship, like you're the mermaid on the ship that's been captured. Man, I'm really taking this like off the rails with the pirate metaphor. Let me bring it back. But the truth is that you're not alone. There are a ton of ways for you to get resourceful with your marketing. Do you have a younger sister who is killing it on social media? Ask her to go onto your platform and take a look and ask her for her advice. She's going to do that for free. You're her sister. She loves you. Do you have a cousin who's just getting into photography in university? Let her come and use your product as practice shots, and then you can use them on your platform. They're not going to be the Annie Leibovitz photographs you want, but they're going to be pretty good, and better yet, they're going to be free. So that episode was really about getting resourceful, expanding your network, and working with people who, in your mind, you might be like, oh, but they wouldn't do this for free, would they? It doesn't hurt to ask. The most they can say is no. So why not ask, figure out a way to make some sort of trade that works for both of you. Number 84, generational marketing. This episode was eye-opening for me, and I talked about how a lot of these episodes I ended up learning things too, which is extremely true. And this was one of them. We learned about how that boomer generation still responds to those traditional forms of marketing, such as print ads or billboards. And then we learned about how Generation X and millennials are actually extremely similar, where they like long-form content to hook onto. Whereas Generation Z, they are very quick. They do not have time for long-form content, but they do want quality content. They do want to be hooked in for something that actually matters to them, but then immediately be changed to something else that also matters to them. Which is why number 85 is all about knowing your audience. You need to know who you're selling to so that you can actually sell to them. Now, here's the thing. When you start building your company and your product, you're not going to know who your audience is. You're going to have an idea of who they are. But after the first month, it's going to become very, very clear who they are. And sometimes your idea of who they were going to be is completely different from who they actually are, which is then when you need to, quickly do a U-turn and figure out what your new marketing strategy is going to be. Either way, you can't just keep forcing the same marketing plan on your audience if it isn't working. You need to know them so that they will want to buy from you. Number 86, one of the last sort of entertainment-y things we talked about was Friends. And we also talked about the Kardashians and the royal family, and I'll get to that. But Friends is so similar to like the Twilight series and 50 Shades of Grey, where it's all about building a relationship with your audience that will be sustainable for years, and it'll allow you to grow and your audience to grow with it. It's been off the air now for like 15 years and people are still like obsessed. It's been off the air for longer than it was ever on the air, which is crazy how much people are still obsessed with it. But it makes sense because they took time to build that following, they knew their audience, and they understood the importance of connecting with that community. Fast food marketing. Ooh, I love fast food. I think I love fast food more than I love fancy, like a good restaurant. Like, I really would take a taco over a steak any day, but that's besides the point. Fast food marketing is something that has been picked apart and regulated, and there's been rules put on it for years because it can be a very dangerous thing to have a fast food company say, okay, this is healthy, and there's no marketing rules around that. So it has definitely been one of the largest industries that has had its marketing regulated with rules and restrictions. So if anything, that podcast was definitely enlightening for that industry, and it helped us understand our industries a little bit more and how we can better be more transparent and honest with our marketing. Ooh, number 88 was the Kardashians, and number 89 was the royal family, which is funny because I think the Kardashians is like, they're the royal family of America. Both families are very, very good at marketing. They know who their brand, what their brand is and how to work it and how to lean back, how to move forward, and it's fascinating how much people are invested in those worlds, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm invested in both, so it's just all about that hook, that wanting to know more. Both worlds have been open up to the public, and because of that, people constantly want to know more about it. And so when they hold things back, like the royal family does quite a bit, it's very easy to suddenly crave their attention, which is why, like, the Kardashians are also very good at, all right, we'll have a reality series, but we're not going to show everything. And we're going to take long breaks in between seasons and not post on Instagram at all to build the buzz. So it's definitely very interesting to watch people get attracted to that world. Finally, number 90. I'm emotional, guys. I won't lie. This is hard. Number 90. It's hard because I don't want this episode to be over because I understand that this has been a celebration of our podcast and I want to keep celebrating. But we got to end it. So number 90 is to have fun. Marketing is a ton of fun, and it can be a ton of stress. But the most important thing to remember is if you're having fun, so is your audience. So have fun, get creative, and make your marketing shine. Okay, everyone, that is it for today's episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app, and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.